Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a very special episode of the Cult of Cantona. My name is Paul Butler Lennox, also known as PBL on the show. So we have a really special episode for you this week. We were really excited and honoured to interview Bryan Robson, Captain Marvel himself, in Cork recently, with thanks to superstarspeakers.co.uk. It was an incredible night. Great opportunity to catch up with listeners of our show and also to meet other fellow Reds and in a very positive and engaging environment, and we really enjoyed it. But it has to be said that here at the Cult of Cantona, we've had the privilege of sitting down with some truly incredible figures from the history of Manchester United. Players who define eras, legends who wore that beautiful red shirt that we're all in awe of. We've spoken with the brilliant Lee Sharp, ever reliable Dennis Irwin, the charismatic Brian McClare, Clayton Blackmore, Frank Stapleton, the list goes on. But recently, we were lucky enough to spend some time with one of the greatest captains Manchester United has ever known. Captain Marvel himself, Bryan Robson. And we can tell you that this guy is exactly the man that you hoped he would be. Down to earth, kind, generous with his time, and as we quickly discovered, very funny. So stay tuned, because coming up a little bit later is our exclusive interview with the man himself, Captain Marvel. But first, let's take a look at a few moments of his remarkable career at Manchester United. A true legend.
At last, the golden boy arrived, his limousine swishing through the Manchester puddles. With him, his wife, his solicitor, his personal manager and his accountant. Once you could have bought United, ground and all, for less than £2 million. This is the happy face today of the one player now said to be worth that astonishing sum. This evening, as Robson returned from a 2-hour medical, things were obviously proceeding well. Ahead lay more talks behind the closed doors of the manager's office, but soon they were ready to say the deal was all but done.
You pay for quality. He's gold dust.
But even at a time when clubs are struggling, you think it's worth paying that sort of money?
Hey, listen, I've just said to you earlier, if we get the lad, we get the best. And, you know, you have to pay for the best, you know.
Are you a happy man tonight?
Be a lot happy when I see him put a red shirt on and play for us.
playing it back for Robson.
When the story of Bryan Robson at Manchester United is told, it is not simply the story of a footballer, it's the story of a leader, a warrior, and the heartbeat of a club during one of the most important eras in its history and one of its most difficult. Robson arrived in 1981 from West Bromwich Albion, signed by Big Ron for a British record transfer fee of £1.5 million. Expectations were enormous, but what unfolded over the next 13 years would be one of the most revered performances and men to ever wear the famous red shirt. From the moment he stepped onto the pitch, Robson played football with relentless intensity. He was a midfielder who did absolutely everything: tackling, driving forward, scoring goals, organising his teammates, and demanding excellence from everyone around him. A box-to-box midfielder. Within a year, Robson was named the captain of Manchester United, a position he would hold for an extraordinary 12 years. He quickly became known to supporters as Captain Marvel. And Robson himself once reflected on what it meant to wear the armband at Old Trafford. Captaining Manchester United was the greatest honour of my career. When you walk out at Old Trafford with that armband, you knew great responsibility came with it.
Side battling, Robson. What a goal from Bryan Robson. That was a magnificent goal.
Livingston making a run forward down the left. Here comes Bryan Robson. He's in with a chance. Yes! The Manchester United captain has equalised.
United still able to go pressing forward. Still a goal behind, and Robson pulls it back.
Robson was the driving force behind Manchester United. His leadership and dynamic style of play inspired the team and electrified Old Trafford. One of the most iconic nights of his career came in April 1984 in the quarter-finals of the European Cup Winners' Cup against Barcelona. United had lost the first leg 2-0 at the Nou Camp, facing one of Europe's giants. And he played opposing a little-known player at the time by the name of Diego Maradona. But on that unforgettable night at Old Trafford, Bryan Robson produced one of the greatest performances ever seen in a Manchester United shirt. Just minutes into the match, Robson surged into the penalty area and scored the opening goal, igniting the stadium and giving United belief. Then he did it again. Another fearless run, another decisive finish. Robson had scored twice against Barcelona and dragged United back into the tie almost single-handedly. The stadium erupted, the players fed off the captain's energy, leading by doing. And when Frank Stapleton scored the third goal, Manchester United had completed an extraordinary 3-0 victory. It remains one of the most famous European nights at Old Trafford. Robson later reflected on that magical night. Old Trafford was rocking. It was one of those nights where everything just clicked. The crowd believed, the players believed, and once we got that first goal, you could feel something special was happening. After that, the trophies soon followed. In 1983, Manchester United lifted the FA Cup after beating Brighton in a replay at Wembley. Robson dominated midfield as United ran out 4-0 winners. Just 2 years later, he lifted the trophy again in the FA Cup final in 1985 as United beat Everton 1-0 despite playing much of the match with 10 men after that moment with Kevin Moran. Then came a new chapter in 1986 with the arrival of a certain Alex Ferguson. Ferguson inherited a club searching for direction but immediately recognised Robson's importance, despite a minor clearer of other players. Robson was, without question, the best captain I ever had. He was a magnificent player and the most inspirational leader. Gary Pallister has described him as the ultimate captain. When Bryan played, you knew you had a chance of winning every single game. Another teammate, Mark Hughes, Sparky, spoke about Robson's impact. He drove the standards every single day. If you trained with Bryan, you had to give absolutely everything. Even opponents recognised his greatness. Legendary defender Paolo Maldini once described Robson as one of the most complete midfielders of his era. Former England manager Bobby Robson famously said, "Bryan Robson was the best box-to-box midfielder in the world." Fact. Robson himself always emphasised the importance of teamwork and dressing room spirit. "At Manchester United, you never play for yourself," he said. "You play for the badge, for the supporters, and for the lads beside you in the dressing room." And speaking about the incredible support from Ireland, something United fans, particularly the other day, know very well, Robson has often praised the influence of Irish players at Old Trafford. Players who helped shape the club. Players like Paul McGrath, Kevin Moran, Dennis Irwin, and later Roy Keane. Robson once said, "Manchester United has always had a special connection with Ireland. The Irish lads who played for us were tough, committed, and absolutely fantastic teammates." He spoke particularly warmly about Paul McGrath and Norman Whiteside. He said, "Paul McGrath was one of the best defenders I ever played with, an incredible footballer and a brilliant character in the dressing room." And about Dennis Irwin, he joked, "Dennis Irwin was the most reliable player you could ever have in any team anywhere. If Dennis played, you knew you'd get an 8 out of 10 every single week." Quite simply, he set the standards for future captains that we know today. When you talk about great captains at United, one name inevitably follows another over the years. From Bryan Robson, Eric Cantona, and Roy Keane. Keane would go on to captain the club during one of the most successful periods in its history. But even he acknowledged the immense standard Robson set before him. Keane once jokingly mentioned about Bryan. "Bryan Robson drank as hard as he played," in his usual backhanded compliment way. It was Roy Keane's blunt but unmistakable way of addressing his relentless approach towards football. Full commitment, full intensity, all the time. Keane also spoke about the leadership of Robson and what it represented, the type of character Manchester United had always valued. Players who demanded the highest standards from themselves and everyone around them. Two captains, two warriors in midfield, different personalities, albeit, but the same uncompromising desire and will to win. Robson himself once joked about the comparisons. "People say Roy Keane was my natural successor, but every player has their own style and their own way." Under Ferguson's leadership and Robson's captaincy, Manchester United began a new era, building towards a relentless period of success. In 1990, United lifted the FA Cup final against Crystal Palace in a replay with a Lee Martin winner, a victory many believe helped ignite the club's modern revival. European glory followed in 91 when United beat Barcelona again 2-1 to win the European Cup Winners' Cup. Then came the moment United supporters had waited decades for, ending a drought of 26 years. In 1993, Manchester United won the inaugural Premier League title after a 26-year wait. The following season, they retained the title and completed a historic Premier League and FA Cup double in 94. Though injuries had begun to limit Robson's appearances, Robson's leadership helped guide a new generation. Players like Ryan Giggs, Paul Ince, Nicky Butt. By the time Bryan left Manchester United in '94, he'd made 461 appearances and scored 99 goals. What a shame he was one goal shy. He won 2 Premier League titles, 3 FA Cups, 1 League Cup, 1 European Cup Winners' Cup, and 3 Charity Shields. Not easy during a period when Liverpool were absolutely dominating. But statistics alone cannot define Bryan Robson. You see, because Bryan Robson represented something a lot deeper for the club. Commitment, courage, leadership, pride. Former United goalkeeper, a legend in his own right, Peter Schmeichel once said, Bryan Robson set the standards for Manchester United. Everything the club became later was built around the mentality he brought. And Robson himself summed up what the club means to him. Once you've played for Manchester United, it stays with you forever. The supporters, the history, the expectations, it becomes part of who you are. To watch Bryan Robson play was to watch a footballer who gave absolutely everything. A captain who inspired his teammates, lifted them up. A midfielder who could change the game like that. And a leader who helped Manchester United from difficult years into the dawn of a new golden era. For supporters like me, he will always be remembered by one name, Captain Marvel.
Bryan, thanks a million for your time and coming on the Cult of Cantona. We really appreciate it. Sorry, we were going to call it the Cult of Bryan Robson, but it was already taken in the UK. So.
Well, everybody's like that with Cantona.
Yeah, he was a special player, but so are you in so many different ways.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks a million for coming on. I just want to talk to you about Irish fans and the Irish influence at Man United, how important that is, and how you feel about Ireland.
It's really important. I mean, I can look back when I played for West Brom, and we had Paddy Mulligan, Mick Martin, Johnny Giles was my manager for a time. So there was a big influence of Irish players at West Brom. So I got used to it. So when I came to United, I've always known that, there's a lot of Irish lads who played for them. And then when you come across to Ireland, they're always fanatical about Manchester United and that. So it's really nice to be involved in that.
Yeah, and just quickly about your Irish players and the likes of Paul McGrath, incredible player, Roy Keane. How important were they to United's success, and who's your favourite Irish player of all time?
You trying to get me in trouble. But no, I mean, I had a lot of success with, obviously, Paul, like 2 FA Cups we won, and then when Roy and Dennis Irwin, when I played with them, we won the title and we won the double, so there were special times. Yeah. And like with Roy, I don't really mix with Roy too much now, even though he lives down the road. But he's doing TV where I'm ambassador of United. But I see Dennis a lot, and we work together a lot because Dennis is ambassador as well. So so I'm still in touch with the Irish boys.
You're still joined at the hip with Dennis. Dennis is lovely.
Yeah, he's a great lad.
Just very quickly, I know you're under a lot of time pressure. Michael Carrick, a local boy as well from your neck of the woods, or close enough.
Yeah.
How do you think his influence over apart from last night? How do you feel about last night?
Well,
mixed emotions.
No, it is, because you want the run to keep going, which since Michael's been in, the run's been terrific. Newcastle's always a difficult place to go to because of the atmosphere and the way the fans get behind them, and they're a decent side now. But when we equalised just before half time, and you just think, wow, got man sent off, equalised right on half time, perfect for the second half. But we didn't look as sharp as what we have been and all that. And Newcastle played really well, so you've got to give them a bit of credit. But no, it was disappointing because of them being down 10 men for more or less 50, 55 minutes of the game.
I will say one thing, we do look like we're going to come back and win games again, don't we? And Michael Carrick obviously is communicating a lot better with the players, isn't he? He's getting them going. He seems like the right man for...
Michael's done a great job since he's been in. there's a good atmosphere around the club, but you know, that's because you're winning. If you're winning around the club, the atmosphere is always good. But, you know, he has done a great job going to a back four. For me, putting some of the better players in the position that they like playing.
Keeping them there.
Yeah, he hasn't really made too many changes. And there's no reason for Michael to make too many changes, because if you're winning and you haven't got loads of cup games, which we haven't, so you look at the season now, and I think it's, what, eight games I think we've got left. So you don't need to be resting players now. You can just, if they're being successful, you can just play the same team all the time. You know, so hopefully we can go on to the end of the season and get a Champions League position, and then I think Michael's done a great job.
Yeah. One last question. Do you think we're going to win the league next year?
No, we're still in a building process, but we've done well this season to even turn it around to where we've turned it around, because a lot of people were saying Europe would be nice, but getting into a Champions League position, if we can achieve that, then that's going to be a good year for us. But then it always depends on your signings in the summer, and you know, that can improve you a hell of a lot, or it could make you not quite as good a team if you make the wrong moves and bring in the wrong players.
Well, things are looking up.
Definitely looking up, yeah.
All right, thanks a million, Bryan.
Lovely, thanks very much.
And in a long history of Manchester United, there have been some incredible players, but there has only ever been one Bryan Robson. There's only one Bryan Robson. One Bryan Robson.
Robson. And Robson again getting back from Stapleton. He's on his way. Can he find the shot? Brilliant goal!
Robson. What a goal from Bryan Robson.
Robson. Forward early. And again. And he's gone all the way.
Cleared everyone, not in back. Carrick couldn't control it quickly enough. The shot. Robson has scored, but only 5 minutes gone.
Green is up on this attack. That's well held up. Moses. Mess of players. Robson trying to sort it out. Oh, and he's made it! Robson. What a comeback! It's Brian McLaren. Here's Peter Davenport against Alan Wilson. Davenport's beaten him.
So, guys, if you enjoy the show and you want to support the work that we do, there's a couple of ways you can do that. You can go to buymeacoffee.com/Cult of Cantona. Buy us a coffee, become a member. There's loads of ways to support the show and to get involved. You can subscribe and follow us on Spotify. You can find us on YouTube. And on social media at The Cult of Cantona, on TikTok, on Instagram, and on Facebook. This episode was brought to you by the incredible superstarspeakers.co.uk, and a massive thanks to Jim and Emma for looking after us the other night. It was a wonderful experience. So yeah, get involved, like, share, #believe, and we'll catch you next time on The Cult of Cantona.